Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump hosting his first cabinet meeting of the year. He's touting his economic agenda and tariff strategy while announcing his next plans for Venezuela. Border Czar Tom Homan says number of immigration enforcement officers in Minnesota will be reduced. That's with cooperation from state officials. More on what he said on the tensions in the city. New videos emerged showing Alex Preddy, the man shot by immigration agents in Minneapolis, aggressively confronting federal agents more than a week before his death. The FBI executed a search warrant at a Fulton County elections office. We discussed the seriousness of the situation with a legal analyst. More freezing weather in store for the eastern U.S. Forecasters predict this cold snap could be the longest in decades.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. President Trump hosting his first cabinet meeting of 2026. In his wide-ranging comments, he's touting his economic agenda and tariff strategy while announcing his next plans for Venezuela. We now go live to NTD's Washington correspondent, Mari Otsu, at the White House. Mari, good afternoon. Tell us, what is the latest from the meeting?
Don, good afternoon to you. That's right. It was truly a wide-ranging meeting today, although it clocked in at only an hour and 20 minutes, which is about 2 hours less than the record-breaking 3 hours and 17-minute cabinet meeting from last year. And in it, President Trump was touting his economic agenda. This is as he's been ramping up domestic travel to one U.S. city per week in anticipation of the midterm elections. And this meeting today happened just one day after the Fed had its first meeting of the year, keeping its rate steady, something that President Trump criticized as usual. And the president said today that he'll be announcing his new Fed chair pick next week. And this is as the White House is touting the largest tax refund season in U.S. history, with President Trump saying today that the average refund is expected to be on average $1,000 higher than before, and attributing this economy to his tariff strategy. Take a look.
We've been given great national security because of tariffs, and we've also been given unprecedented income because of tariffs. I hope we're going to be successful with the Supreme Court case, because we're waiting, and we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, and we don't want to give it back, number one. And number two, and you know, the people that are fighting us on that case, by the way, are China-centric. These are people that are for China, but they're also outside of the United States.
Meanwhile, on foreign affairs, President Trump says that he is instructing Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy to immediately open up the airspace over Venezuela by the end of the day today. Take a look.
I just spoke to the president of Venezuela, informed her that we're going to be opening up all commercial airspace over Venezuela. American citizens will be very shortly able to go to Venezuela, and they'll be safe there. They'll be safe. It's under very strong control, and the people of formerly of Venezuela, some want to go back and some want to go back to visit, and they're going to be able to do that.
And on the Russia-Ukraine war, President Trump said today that he's asked Russian President Vladimir Putin to not target the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv for 1 week as they're experiencing record-breaking frigid temperatures there. And while he didn't take any questions today, which is rather unusual, the president does have 2 more events on his schedule where he may take questions. Later in the afternoon, a White House official tells us that he'll sign an order launching a new initiative to address drug addiction. And then later this evening, President Trump is expected at the premiere of the First Lady's documentary called Melania at the Trump Kennedy Center. Don, back to you.
All right, Mari, appreciate it. The FBI executed a search warrant yesterday at a Fulton County elections office outside Atlanta. The search comes amid ongoing scrutiny of Fulton County's handling of the 2020 presidential election. President Trump has long argued that election improprieties in Georgia contributed to his loss in the state. Last month, the Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against Fulton County, seeking access to voting records from the 2020 election. County officials had previously said records were under seal and could not be released without a court order. The lawsuit stems from a July resolution passed by Georgia's state election board, which called on the state attorney general to ensure compliance with voting transparency requirements. The FBI executed a search warrant at the Fulton County Elections Office not far from Atlanta. Joining us to discuss is political strategist Gerard Filitti, senior counsel at the Lawfare Project. Gerard, good afternoon. Can you just first off speak to the gravity of the situation of a raid of an election facility?
It tells you how serious this is when a judge, a federal judge, has signed off on a warrant, meaning that there's probable cause to believe a crime has been committed in order to execute this search. And it's not just a normal search. This is a raid. There is a concern implicitly here that if the raid were not carried out when it was, records might be lost or destroyed or otherwise be made unavailable. So this speaks to the seriousness of the situation, and it tells you that the Justice Department's investigation is really progressing smoothly and quickly.
So can you go a bit deeper into that? What exactly do you need to show or convince the judge of in order to get a federal search warrant in this context?
Well, you need to specify what you're looking for, how it connects to your investigation, and more importantly, that there is a reasonable basis to believe that some crime has actually been committed. So the FBI has to show those things to a federal judge, to a magistrate judge, in order to get a warrant. Now, warrants are not automatic. We may think that they are, but judges do look carefully to see if that burden is met. So this means that the FBI convinced the federal judge that the information they had and the case that they're pursuing is serious enough to warrant this.
So why engage in a raid specifically rather than perhaps other options like issuing a subpoena or getting documents some other way?
When you have a raid, you have the concern that if you simply ask for records, they will be destroyed. Someone will alter them. Someone will make sure that they're not found, not available. So the raid element is the element of surprise. It's the maximum chance that you have of obtaining documents or other evidence without giving people a heads up that they have an opportunity to destroy or tamper with it. And again, when we're talking about voter fraud, when we're talking about allegations of the integrity of our electoral system, you want to take this seriously, and you don't want to give people an opportunity to hide the evidence.
So speaking of documents, some of them include, ballots, tabulator tapes from the scanners used to tally the ballots, electronic ballot images, voter rolls. What could evidence of wrongdoing look like in this case?
Well, that's an excellent question, and I think we will see more as time progresses. But I think part of this will be an audit by the FBI to see whether these documents are original, whether they are presumed to be original from election night, from the voters themselves, or whether there is any indication that there was tampering with them, whether some were not counted or some were counted in different ways. So looking at these actual ballots and comparing them to voter rolls to make sure that there's a match between the number of ballots and the number of people who are eligible to and actually did vote, these are things that the FBI is going to be looking at.
So speaking of tampering, a senator raised concerns regarding chain of custody to ensure the documents are not subject to modification. So what are the mechanisms in place to actually protect chain of custody?
Well, by the FBI, the chain of custody is pretty simple. You have to sworn agents who are tracking every time that evidence is moved, looked at, taken anywhere, anything is done with it. So you have a log. Before it's in the hands of the FBI, that's the question. Different counties, different electoral boards have different proceedings. So it's not clear what Fulton County's process was, but usually when you have chain of evidence, even for something before it gets to a federal investigation, you do need that log of who had possession of them, what they were used for, what happened to them, keeping track of it.
So Gerard, some have raised concerns about election integrity being at risk due to this raid. But people have had big concerns as well about election fraud since at least 2020. Is investigating potential fraud in our elections the responsibility of local, state, and federal government?
Well, it has to be, because when you're looking at the integrity of elections, this is something that falls within the purview of the federal government. That's why the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was reportedly on the scene, because the DNI, that office of the federal government, is responsible for maintaining voter integrity, for maintaining electoral integrity, to make sure that there's no tampering, especially by foreign actors. So this is something that the federal government takes seriously, as well as state and local officials. The problem is that there is an inconsistency between states. There's no uniform way that ballots and voting systems are handled. And because of that, you do need local officials to be more involved in maintaining the safety and security of this process.
So if fraud is found, people are charged. Do you expect those findings to change the way the public and government approach elections going forward? And what does it mean for the 2020 election?
Well, I think this calls into account the growing pressure on many elected officials by the public to maintain election integrity, to make sure that people who are voting are actually eligible to vote, that there is some form of ID requirement when voting, that the mechanisms for voting by absentee or remote ballot are secure and are impervious to being tampered with. And regardless of the outcome of this particular investigation, I think that we will see a trend towards having more measures to safeguard the integrity of elections and to make sure that it truly is one person, one vote, and that this is all counted. As for the 2020 election, that's settled. I mean, there's nothing that's going to change there. If anything, we might have a different number, a different result. But the fact is that Joe Biden was president, and now it's Donald Trump.
Right, understood. And just real quick, how long do you think this investigation could last before we get some kind of information on what they found?
I think that the fact that they sought a warrant and executed a raid means that they have certain individuals identified, and we may not know who they are yet, but they have identified individuals who they are concerned might tamper with the evidence. So I think this investigation is proceeding very quickly, and it will be a matter of weeks, if not a few months, before we have more details and possibly charges.
All right, Gerard, great analysis as always. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Florida's our Tom Homan says number of immigration enforcement officers in Minnesota will be reduced. That's with cooperation from state officials. More on what he said on the tensions in the city after this break.
A performance that truly matters for each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. See it at least once in your lifetime. Shen Yun. Get tickets now at shenyun.com.
Food. It fuels our bodies, nourishes our spirits, and brings us together. Because we all need nutritious food to thrive.
Food gives me energy and it also helps me focus.
But not everyone knows where their next meal is coming from. And 1 in 7 people in America face hunger. It's tougher than ever for too many of us. But the simple truth is, ending hunger is possible, and it starts with you. Call or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, to help families in your community facing hunger. Feeding America works from coast to coast with partner food banks, food pantries, and meal programs. Your monthly gift delivers food where it's needed most, puts fresh food on the table, and helps kids have healthy meals all year round, even when school is out.
You can see the difference with the kids when they're full. Food is everything.
Please call the number on your screen or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org. Give $19 a month. Your first gift can double in impact. And we'll send you this free canvas grocery bag as a reminder of how you're helping to end hunger for good.
When it comes down to it, it's about taking care of your family first and the loved ones that you need to provide for.
Food donations help me tremendously, and I'm very grateful for the food bank. I have hope.
The simple truth is, ending hunger in America is possible. You can help make it happen. The need is urgent. Call or go online now to helpfeedingamerica.org, and your gift can double in impact.
Life's daily battles are not meant to be fought alone.
We're not powerless, so long as we don't lose sight of what's important.
Don't be afraid to seize that moment to talk to your friends.
Cloud, you okay?
Because checking in on a friend can create a safe space.
The first step on our new journey. You coming?
Reach out to a friend about their mental health. Seize the awkward. It's totally worth it.
We're learning more about the man who was recently shot by federal agents in Minneapolis. New videos have emerged which show Alex Preddy aggressively confronting ICE agents more than a week before his death. The video captured by the News Movement shows Preddy spitting at a federal agent's vehicle, and as it pulls away, Preddy kicks the SUV's taillight twice, breaking it. The incident happened on January 13th, 11 days before he was fatally shot by Border Patrol officers. A lawyer for the family has verified the person in the video is Alex Preddy. The video shows several agents tackling Preddy and bringing him to the ground before he is let go. When he turns his back to the camera, what appears to be a handgun is visible in his waistband. It's unclear whether the agents saw it or not. Preddy was fatally shot last week during a separate confrontation. Immediately after the incident, several officers said Preddy brandished a firearm during a protest and was carrying the gun when he was confronted by the agents. Customs and Border Patrol says it has put the two agents involved on administrative leave, calling it standard protocol. Border Czar Tom Homan spoke today about immigration operations in Minneapolis. He says city and state officials have agreed to honor ICE detainers in prisons. He added that would allow for a drawdown of federal agents. Homan also addressed border security and stressed that ICE agents face.
Under the President's leadership, we have the most secure border in the history of this nation, which means less women are being raped, less children are dying crossing that border, less fentanyl is getting this country to kill Americans. More agents in the jail means less agents in the street. This is common sense cooperation that allows us to draw down on the number of people we have here. Yes, I said it, draw down the number of people here. Because we have the efficiency and safety of the jails. Day after day, you can't eat in restaurants, day after day, having people spit on you and blow whistles at you, day after day, having all these threats at you, day after day, having people trying to interfere with you, day after day, they're human.
Holman said those unhappy with immigration enforcement should take their concerns to Washington, where immigration laws are written. The Border Czar acknowledged that federal operations are not perfect. He said the Trump administration has recognized that improvements can and should be made. He said he met with ICE as well as state and local officials to convey the president's expectations for enforcement. Holman emphasized that ICE is conducting targeted operations, saying officers know exactly who they are looking for.
We got to stop the rhetoric, the hateful rhetoric that has caused an increase in assaults. That has caused, because of that, have to send security teams out with arrest teams, which surge the city with additional resources because of the rhetoric, because of the threats, because of the assaults. I begged for the last 2 months on TV for the rhetoric to stop. I said in March, if the rhetoric didn't stop, there's going to be bloodshed. And there has been. I wish I wasn't right. Prioritization are going to be criminal aliens, public safety threats, and national security threats. The organization and the funding of the attacks on ICE. I'm not going to answer a lot about that because I'm not going to show our hand, but they'll be held accountable. Justice is coming.
Holman also warned that weak border enforcement sends a message encouraging illegal immigration, increasing deaths, trafficking, and a strain on Border Patrol resources. Holman also addressed protesters. He said he supports First Amendment rights and appealed to those voicing concerns to keep it peaceful. He also said there will be zero tolerance for threats against law enforcement officers, assaults on agents, and interference with enforcement operations. A Somali-American woman has been arrested in Minneapolis. 23-year-old Nazra Ahmed was among 16 people taken into custody, accused of assaulting or impeding federal law enforcement during a riot. Ahmed went viral earlier this month after a news conference where she compared Somali-American identity to a mix she called bananas and rice. Attorney General Pam Bondi said she is in Minneapolis as federal authorities step up enforcement following recent unrest, warning that more arrests are expected. Bondi says the government will not tolerate lawlessness in Minnesota. The arrests come amid heightened tensions after the shooting of Alex Preddy during an ICE operation. Federal officials say protecting agents has become a top priority as protests continue. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz said in an interview yesterday that he would never run for office again. Here he is.
Walz is currently serving his second term as governor of Minnesota. He was first elected in 2018 after serving 6 terms in the U.S. House. The Trump administration has recently singled out Walz and Minnesota, over allegations of massive fraud in the state. And that's while Senator Amy Klobuchar said today she's running for governor of Minnesota. In her campaign announcement, the Senate Democrat vowed to challenge President Trump and his administration's immigration enforcement efforts. She also said that Minnesota has been through a lot. In a video posted on X, Klobuchar pointed to this month's fatal shootings in the city, the assassination of a state legislature, and a school shooting. Klobuchar did not address the ongoing investigations into widespread fraud in her state, though. Several Republicans are running for the GOP nomination, including MyPillow founder Mike Lindell and Minnesota House Speaker Lisa DeMuth.
The Justice Department has charged a man who squirted apple cider vinegar on Congresswoman Ilhan Omar at an event in Minneapolis. The incident took place Tuesday as Omar called for dismantling ICE and demanded that Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem resign. The individual faces a charge of forcibly assaulting, opposing, impeding, and intimidating the Minnesota Democrat. The case comes amid escalating tensions in Minneapolis over federal immigration enforcement operations and follows the fatal shooting of local activists Alex Preddy and Renee Nicole Good. Omar has blamed President Trump for threats to her safety. Trump has also accused Omar of staging the attack. President Trump has chosen a head for the Justice Department's new dedicated fraud enforcement division. The president yesterday nominated Colin McDonald as the division's first assistant attorney general. In a Truth Social post yesterday, Trump said McDonald is a tough, smart, and highly respected America First federal prosecutor. McDonald has worked as an associate deputy attorney general since last year. Before that, he worked under Deputy AG Todd Blanche. In a post on X yesterday, Blanche called McDonald a rock star who was instrumental in helping make America safe again. Earlier this month, Trump said the newly created division was created to combat the pervasive problem of fraud by enforcing federal law against fraud schemes across the country. The division will enforce criminal and civil laws against fraud targeting federal government programs, federally funded benefits, businesses, nonprofits, and private citizens nationwide. Its creation comes after the Department of Justice uncovered alleged fraud schemes in Minnesota worth billions of dollars. Senator Susan Collins says enhanced ICE operations in Maine have ended. The move comes just over a week after federal officials launched what was called Operation Catch of the Day. In an early morning statement, Maine Senator said the decision followed several conversations with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Collins says DHS does not confirm enforcement activity, but commented that there are currently no ongoing or planned large-scale ICE operations in the state. The intensified effort was aimed at targeting what officials described as the worst of the worst. It led to more than 200 arrests. Collins said ICE and Border Patrol will continue normal operations in Maine. A federal appeals court says ending temporary protected status for Haitians and Venezuelans in the U.S. was illegal. It says Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem exceeded her authority with the terminations. The appellate panel says she tried to override the power of Congress. The ruling upholds a lower court decision. Noem argues conditions have improved in the two countries, so their TPS designations are no longer necessary. Haitians got temporary protected status after a catastrophic earthquake in 2010. The U.S. gave Venezuelans TPS due to the economic and political crisis in the country. New York police have launched a hate crime investigation after a disturbing car ramming incident overnight. A man was arrested after repeatedly crashing his vehicle into a deeply revered Hasidic Jewish site. NTD's Daniel Monahan reports.
Videos shared online show a car repeatedly reversing and then smashing headfirst into the Chabad Lubavitch World Headquarters in New York City last night. The frightening incident happened while people were gathered for prayer. It comes at a time of heightened concern within Jewish communities worldwide, following last month's deadly Bondi attack in Australia, where 15 people were killed during a Hanukkah celebration. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch said the bomb squad responded and conducted a full sweep of the vehicle. No explosive devices were found.
This incident is currently being investigated as a hate crime by the NYPD's Hate Crimes Task Force.
New York City's Mayor Zohran Mamdani said he stands in solidarity with the Crown Heights Jewish community.
I am relieved that no one was injured in this horrifying incident. This is deeply alarming, especially given the deep meaning and the history of the institution to so many in New York and around the world.
Mamdani said any threat to a Jewish institution or place of worship must be taken seriously.
Anti-Semitism has no place in our city, and violence or intimidation against Jewish New Yorkers is unacceptable.
Attorney General Letitia James said it was a blessing no one was hurt.
I'm a former city council member who has represented this community in the past, and I know this community very closely and deeply. They are part of my family.
Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights Harmeet Dillon said she has instructed criminal prosecutors to open a civil rights investigation into the attack. Police say the vehicle involved had New Jersey license plates. The driver eventually exited the car wearing shorts, shouting to bystanders that it slipped, and told officers he was trying to park. A Chabad Lubavitch spokesperson said some of the doors were damaged in the crash. The Chabad Lubavitch headquarters and synagogue in Brooklyn's Crown Heights neighborhood has thousands of visitors annually. Its Gothic revival facade is very recognizable to adherents of the Chabad movement and has inspired dozens of replicas across the world. The word Chabad is an acronym for three Hebrew words, Chokhmah, wisdom, Bina, understanding, and Da'at, knowledge, according to Chabad.org. The Jewish religious system is focused on deep faith in the Torah. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
1 year after the devastating Palisades fire, lawmakers are demanding accountability. A Senate investigation is now examining leadership decisions, water failures, and whether warning signs were missed. NTD's Christina Corona has more from yesterday's Senate hearing.
It's been more than a year since the Palisades fire devastated parts of Southern California, and lawmakers are demanding answers. A Senate committee is investigating what went wrong. In November, Senator Rick Scott toured the burn zone and described the destruction.
I went down to see the Palisades, and I was just shocked. I mean, there was just block after block, there was nothing. There was burnt-out homes, and there was nothing happening. When the fire broke out, fire hydrants were dry. How in God's green earth could that happen? Right? It wasn't firefighters who did that. The reservoirs were empty. The mayor was missing in action.
Fire officials testified the Palisades fire may have been preventable.
The fire that began on January 1st, known as the Lockman Fire, was never fully extinguished. It became a holdover fire, a well-known and predictable hazard.
Another major focus was water infrastructure. Testimony revealed at least one key reservoir sat empty for 11 months.
Again, who missed it? Again, it was missed on multiple fronts. It was missed by the Department of Water themselves by not being able to state that they have reservoirs empty. It was missed by the fire department by not asking the questions, are all systems online? It was missed by the Southern California Edison. All of the utility companies should be coming together, having this conversation.
Witnesses also criticized leadership decisions, including the lack of pre-deployed fire resources. Crawford said the after-action report was intentionally softened and failed to identify who made the decision not to pre-deploy fire engines.
The main part of this investigation is to expose what happened, name names, identify the incompetence so it doesn't happen again.
However, Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal urged the federal government to release more disaster aid. Last month, Governor Gavin Newsom requested $33 billion in federal funding for Los Angeles wildfire recovery. Officials say this will be an ongoing investigation. Christina Corona, NTD News.
We're moving on to the weather now, where the cold isn't expected to let up anytime soon. The National Weather Service is warning of dangerously cold temperatures across the eastern U.S. starting tonight. The extreme cold snap is expected to be one of the longest in decades. The bitter cold is predicted to extend into next week with a fresh surge of frigid air. Forecasters warn daily minimums could be broken across the region. Weather models show a low-pressure system off the Carolinas could develop into a bomb cyclone this weekend. Parts of the southeast could start accumulating snow this Saturday. Further inland in Mississippi and Tennessee, the situation is growing more dire after days of icy weather and power outages. Many of these areas are not equipped for this kind of cold. Dispatchers are fielding calls for medication and oxygen, while troopers are conducting welfare checks on people who haven't been heard from in days. Gold advanced to a new record high today, nearing the $5,600 an ounce level. Silver also benefited from the flight to safety, leaping above the $120 level. Here's an update.
Gold extended its record-breaking rally on Thursday, blasting past $5,500 per ounce. That is, as investors sought safety amid geopolitical and economic strains. The precious metal jumped over 2% by midday in Asia and is up around 27% just this year. Prices broke the $5,000 mark for the first time on Monday and have continued to zoom higher. This is driven by a cocktail of factors, including strong safe haven demand and firm central bank buying. Since gold is priced in dollars, the weaker greenback also makes it cheaper for buyers holding other currencies. Analysts from OCBC said that, quote, rising government debt burdens, geopolitical concerns, and policy unpredictability have accelerated a structural re-rating of gold's role in portfolios. Silver also notched an all-time high Thursday, coming within a whisker of breaching the $120 mark. Prices have been helped by demand from investors looking for cheaper alternatives to gold, along with supply shortages and momentum buying. The white metal has jumped more than 60% so far this year.
The European Union has imposed new sanctions on Iran and has designated the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization. More news after this break.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, I have an important message about security. Write down the number on your screen so you can call when I finish. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. This is a lock for your life insurance, a rate lock that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. But be careful. Many policies you see do not have one. But you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. Call this number to learn more. This plan was designed with a rate lock for people on a fixed income who want life insurance that fits their budget and is simple to get. Coverage options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. Act now, and your rate will be locked in for life. It will never increase, guaranteed. This is lifelong coverage that can never be canceled as long as you pay your premiums, guaranteed. And your acceptance is guaranteed, with no health questions. You cannot be turned down because of your health. Call for your information kit and read about this rate lock for yourself. You'll also get a free beneficiary planner. Both are free with no obligation. Don't miss out. Call for information, then decide. Read about the 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. Don't wait. Call this number now.
Call now and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner. Use this valuable guide to record important information and your final wishes, and it's yours free just for calling. So don't wait. Call 1-800-357-4821 for your free information. That's 1-800-357-4821. There's no risk or obligation. That number again is 1-800-357-4821. That's 1-800-357-4821. 1-800-357-4821. Call now.
We said we'd never give in to a meltdown.
Okay.
And we'd never babysit with a screen. We said we'd never let the toys take over.
Mariella!
Never leave the house looking, well, and never let them out of our sight.
Skylar, come here.
Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum says she had a productive conversation with President Trump. According to Sheinbaum, the two talked about trade issues and the nation's bilateral relationship. The U.S. and Mexico recently agreed to start talks on possible reforms to a United States-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. The trilateral trade deal took effect in 2020. Under the deal, the three countries must launch a joint review of the trade pact by July 1st. That's to confirm their intention to either renew it for a 16-year period or make modifications. The 2020 agreement has shielded Mexico from most of President Trump's tariffs, as many Mexican goods can enter the U.S. duty-free. Talks are underway to strengthen security in the Arctic. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said yesterday that technical discussions between the United States, Denmark, and Greenland have begun.
I think we're going to get something positive done. We're going to begin that process in a very professional, straightforward way. It begins today, and it'll be a regular process. We're going to try to do it in a way that isn't like a media circus every time these conversations happen, because we think that creates more flexibility on both sides to arrive at a positive outcome.
The Secretary of State says the working group aims to counter threats from Russia and China. It was created earlier this month during a meeting including Rubio, Vice President J.D. Vance, and the foreign ministers of Denmark and Greenland. Rubio projected confidence they will wind up in a good place. The initiative comes after President Trump has said the U.S. must secure Greenland to increase national security against China and Russia. European Union foreign ministers today adopted new sanctions on Iran. The measures target people and entities involved in a violent clampdown on protesters and in the countries to support Russia.
Is urgently needed because the way in which people have been beaten, tortured, thrown into prison, and even shot or hanged is so dramatic, not only in terms of numbers, but also in terms of the way in which this unjust regime has acted, that there must be a clear response from the European Union as a community of values.
The ministers agreed to add Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to the EU's list of designated terrorist organizations, which includes Islamic State and Al-Qaeda. The IRGC was set up after Iran's 1979 Islamic Revolution. The Revolutionary Guard is in charge of Iran's ballistic missile and nuclear programs and controls parts of the economy and armed forces. It was set up to protect the regime's clerical ruling system. New efforts to supercharge America's cyber defenses are underway at the Pentagon. Senators on Capitol Hill yesterday examined the revised cyber force generation model designed to counter threats from China. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has the details.
The future of war is going to be cyber.
The Chinese have executed a deliberate campaign in order to compromise U.S. networks.
The Pentagon is stepping up its cyber force plan in the face of rising threats from China. The Senate Armed Services Cybersecurity Subcommittee held a hearing on Wednesday probing what the department calls Cybercom 2.0.
We're treating a cyber capability just like we would a kinetic capability. We're not sprinkling cyber on. We are integrating cyber operations into the Joint Force Commander's plan.
This follows Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's major announcement last December to emphasize cybersecurity in the military.
We're also rapidly strengthening our nation's ability to deter and defend against cyber attacks on Department of War and dual-use targets, including through the most comprehensive overhaul of U.S. Cyber Command since it was started 15 years ago.
The plan shifts away from traditional service models and integrates the U.S. Cyber Command more closely with the military branches. And the urgency is clear. Chinese state-sponsored hackers, like we saw with the Volt and Salt Typhoons over the past couple years, continue to infiltrate U.S. critical infrastructure. That means power grids, water systems, and telecommunications networks. They use stealthy tactics to hide in plain sight. Over the past few years, campaigns linked to the Chinese Communist Party have targeted U.S. telecoms and transportation.
When foreign adversaries like China and Russia and Iran, they're probing and testing and challenging our systems, I would say by the nanosecond, not even enough to say daily, every single second. They're seeking any opportunity they can to degrade our command control, disrupt our operations, steal our most sensitive information.
Our adversaries are using the cyber domain as part of their multifaceted campaigns to degrade U.S. and allied interests. Threats in cyberspace are currently growing faster than we can scale our actions.
And Cyber Command is already proving its value. They played key roles in operations like Midnight Hammer and Absolute Resolve, which saw the decimation of Iran's nuclear sites and contributed to the capture of former Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro.
And what Cybercom 2.0 is really going to bring is advanced and specialized training that will allow us to both compete and really plan to outpace China.
As Chinese cyber threats grow more aggressive, the Pentagon says that Cybercom 2.0 is no longer optional. It's essential to winning the next war before it starts. Reporting by Jack Bradley, NTD News.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer kicked off his first ever visit to communist China yesterday alongside an entourage of business leaders. This comes as concerns mount over the Chinese Communist Party's espionage activities and its repression of human rights. NTD's Sam Wong has the details.
They say that 8 days is a long time in politics. Try 8 years.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer arrived in Beijing on Wednesday for a 3-day state visit. He's the first UK Prime Minister to go to China since Theresa May in 2018. The communist regime is considered a major trading partner for the United Kingdom, but that relationship soured in recent years due to concern about espionage, Beijing's support for Russia in its war with Ukraine, and the regime's repression of pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong. Traveling with a delegation of business leaders, Starmer is slated to visit Shanghai and meet with Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping.
Of course, we will have to manage our differences, but that's what you do with a mature, consistent, comprehensive and strategic approach to China. We manage our differences, we take our opportunities, and we constantly think, how does this deliver for people back at home?
Aside from building ties with China, Starmer is coming under pressure to help secure the release of British citizen Jimmy Lai, a former media tycoon and one of Hong Kong's most prominent pro-democracy figures. Lai was arrested in 2020 by CCP authorities and is facing a potential sentence of life in prison.
It is outrageous that any British Prime Minister should go to Beijing whilst a British citizen is incarcerated, languishing along with many pro-democracy campaigners in jails in Hong Kong and in mainland China.
And just shortly before Starmer's China visit, the UK government approved a new supersized Chinese embassy in central London. That's despite pressure from lawmakers over national security concerns. The decision drew protest, with critics warning the embassy could be used as a CCP outpost to intimidate and spy on Chinese dissidents in exile.
This site will accommodate hundreds more Chinese state employees. We know what that means. More interference, more influence operations, and more intimidations of people like me.
Meanwhile, a recent report by The Telegraph says a Chinese spying operation has been hacking the phones of senior UK officials for years. Ahead of Starmer's visit, more than a dozen organizations issued a joint letter urging the Prime Minister to raise the issue of forced organ harvesting. It's a crime committed by the CCP against prisoners of conscience, including groups like Falun Gong practitioners and the Uyghur ethnic minority. When asked whether he would raise human rights issues with Beijing, Starmer did not go into specifics, but said that he would, quote, raise the issues that need to be raised. Sam Wong, NTD News.
Meanwhile, as Starmer is in China, back in the UK, suspected Chinese agents have threatened to shoot Prime Minister Keir Starmer if performances of Shen Yun go ahead. The UK's Metro media outlet reporting yesterday that Shen Yun received threatening emails during the company's tour in the UK, which is ongoing. One email reads, "Cancel the Shen Yun performance or British Prime Minister Keir Starmer will be shot from a distance." Another reads, "If you insist on having Shen Yun perform, you will experience a surprise terrorist attack. I am not joking with you." Shen Yun is a performing arts company based in New York. Its mission is to revive traditional Chinese culture from a time before communism. The show also exposes the CCP's ongoing persecution against the Falun Gong spiritual group. Over the past 2 years, the company has received more than 160 death threats and bomb threats believed to be from CCP agents. According to Shen Yun's website, the Chinese regime has been trying to sabotage performances around the world since the dance company's founding in 2006. No actual incidents have occurred due to the threats, and no show was canceled because of the threats. NTD's 5th International Photography Competition enters its final round today. We take a look at the submissions from all over the world. Stay tuned for that after this break.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. I thought, oh, it's nothing, it'll go away. I didn't get it. I did not get it. But a few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. It felt like an elephant pressing on my chest. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I was rushed into surgery where I received 2 stents in my arteries. Stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. I can enjoy life with my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did.
Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org. Become a monthly donor during February Heart Month, and your first month's gift will be matched.
Thank you.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually, once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers. He connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
In the latest round of company layoffs, Amazon is letting go thousands of employees. Part of the reason, it says, is to streamline its corporate structure. NTD's David Lam reports.
Amazon says it's cutting 16,000 jobs at the corporate level. The company says it sent a message to employees on Wednesday. A senior vice president said that the company has been working to strengthen our organization by reducing layers, increasing ownership, and removing bureaucracy. Future reductions may be possible, as she said some teams will continue to make adjustments as appropriate. This comes as the tech industry as a whole has been restructuring on a broad scale. These job cuts affect nearly 10% of Amazon's corporate employees. Amazon says U.S.-based employees are offered 90 days to look for a new role internally. Otherwise, they'll receive support, including severance pay. On Tuesday, the company said it was closing its remaining Amazon Fresh and Amazon Go markets. This round of job cuts is the latest since Amazon cut 14,000 roles in October. It cited artificial intelligence and changing corporate culture among the reasons. Tech companies like Amazon, Meta, and Microsoft have been restructuring after they ramped up hiring during the COVID-19 pandemic. David Lam, NTD News, California.
Families are paying their respects to the 67 people who died in the mid-air collision near Washington, D.C. last year. The families of victims gathered yesterday to honor their loved ones and demand change. Here's more on that story.
On Wednesday evening, the families of 67 people who died in an aircraft collision last January gathered in Washington, D.C. Today, January 29th, marks 1 year since their loved ones died in America's worst aviation disaster in over 2 decades. On that day, an American Airlines jet and an Army Black Hawk helicopter collided over the Potomac River near Reagan National Airport.
Tonight, we gather to honor the 67 lives lost, 67 people who were deeply loved and who are deeply missed every single day.
The memorial came a day after investigators testified about years of ignored warnings and near misses. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy was present at the gathering yesterday. He praised the families for pressing forward with their demand for accountability.
And you made a choice to pay it forward in a way that some other family wouldn't have to go through what your family went through. And you channeled it into positive energy to make a difference.
Among those killed last January were some of the country's most promising young skaters, as well as their parents and coaches traveling home after training camp.
While we were powerless in that moment to help our loved ones, we were not powerless to help each other. So that's what we did. And we've been doing that ever since.
The mayor of Alexandria, Virginia, Aaliyah Gaskins, announced a memorial plaque would be established on the Potomac River. Officials honored the first responders who rushed to the crash site that day, many plunging into the freezing river in an attempt to save lives. At a hearing on Tuesday, investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board testified there was no single cause for the crash, but that a number of failures led to the disaster. The board's chairwoman, Jennifer Homendy, said the crash was 100% preventable.
But those of us in the aviation community must be unafraid to acknowledge that these systemic failures that led to this tragedy are ours to fix, even if they predate us.
The NTSB has made several recommendations to prevent similar tragedies from happening in the future. Chief among them is a bill that will require aircraft to have advanced locator systems to help prevent collisions. It's something the board has been pushing for years. Senator Ted Cruz from Texas says the bill is close to final passage.
NTD's 5th International Photography Competition in its final round right now, and it has received submission from all over the world. Its mission is to promote works which focus on luminosity, beauty, and naturalism, while following traditional principles and aesthetics. NTD's Flora Hua was at the exhibition yesterday to learn from the judges and contestants about the art of photography. Here's the report.
Among the nearly 200 photographs that made it to the final round, what are the determining factors for the competition's judging panel? We tapped Renee Luo, one of the jurors of the photography competition, to find out more. Renee Luo from Australia has extensive experience in not only photography, but also oil painting. She has been on the judging panel since the inaugural competition back in 2008.
Competitions organized by NTD are not about money. The scale and presence of this event represents a kind of universal value, NTD's values. What it expresses is something ancient and traditional, the spiritual state of how people once lived calmly, peacefully, and with stability and balance.
Luo said the judging panel has received more and more works matching the core values of the photography competition over the years, especially this year. But where are these core values coming from?
Because everyone's way of thinking is different. Each person's judgment of a work of art is also different. But ultimately, there are universal values shared by all of humanity, and the mission set by this organizing committee is precisely such universal values. It provides a broad direction, positive, uplifting, bright, and kind. When you have compassion, goodness naturally emerges. No one likes darkness, and no one likes coldness. We all need sunlight and warmth.
Besides the theme of the photo, Luo emphasized that a good photographer should always keep in mind the traditional rules of composition.
Photography is essentially a two-dimensional art that evolved from painting. It carries over the aesthetics of painting. So its basic aesthetic standards come from painting. The difference is that it uses modern mechanical tools. What truly sets it apart is its emphasis on light and shadow, using light to paint. So, what are universal values? In visual aesthetics, whether in painting or photography, there are standards and rules. Just as a country must have laws to regulate society, an image also needs rules. When you work within these rules, everything flows smoothly. When you ignore them, things become chaotic.
Gina Pottinger said she learned a lot from the judges' insights. As a veteran photographer herself, Pottinger took many photos of people, but she will always ask herself a question.
In the organization that I worked with, we really thought a lot about dignity of the person that we were, if there were people in the photo, would they be proud to see the photo that we took of them? Would they feel good about how we were portraying them? Really just thinking about what is in the environment of the photo and what you focus on can reduce the dignity of the person, or it can elevate the dignity of the person.
Pottinger also shared why she thinks the role of a photographer carries a lot of weight in what they bring to the viewers.
I think we all tend to trust what we see with our eyes, even if we weren't physically there. And the photographer or the videographer has a lot of power to omit part of the image in how they crop the image or how they zoom in on something, what is not inside the frame of the photo. And so just the framing itself is very powerful.
Another photographer from Germany has been taking pictures of sailing races for over 15 years.
I love it to be on the water. It doesn't matter which kind of weather it is, and to catch really the sailing boat and the energy what is on the boat and the emotions the people have on the boat. You can see how they work together. So I now the photo sailing as a team, because you really have to work there on the boat as a team, otherwise it wouldn't function.
Reporting from New York City's Samoguni Club, Flora Hua, NTD News.
The Senate has blocked a package of government funding bills. With the House out of season, part of the government will almost certainly shut down again Friday night at midnight when current funding expires. Find out more after this break.
This is pho-licious. Now, what is pho? It's an authentic Vietnamese noodle dish. Pho-licious chicken pho brings the comforting, aromatic flavors of Vietnam to your bowl, and Mama Thu's signature spice blend. Well, this chicken pho is as close to homemade as it gets without the wait. Some cubed chicken, a little lime, and then the magic moment. See you soon, my friends.
Pho-licious is now available at your local Walmart or walmart.com.
August was born 3 pounds, 9.8 ounces. When I first saw him, it was a whole range of emotions. There's stuff I still want to do. Being a young dad, it's not giving up. It's shifting. Just seeing him happy. I looked through his eyes. I envisioned a whole future with him already. To throw the first football to him, give him ice cream for the first time. I'm happy because he's advancing in life. My life is now devoted to his life.
This is such a gentle painting, so beautifully portrayed.
A group of people reading together in this simple, everyday-looking living room. A young girl reading along with an adult, a grandparent sitting in the lotus position, a businessman in his typical suit.
You see all those people, they look like they have quietly settled down there. And you as a viewer, it looks like you've just stepped in the door.
You can't see what it is they're reading, so you're a little bit curious and you're kind of invited to walk in.
This harmonious feeling is not by accident. It is the very subject of the work. The book they are reading is the main text of Falun Gong, which is an ancient Chinese spiritual discipline in the Buddhist tradition. At the core of Falun Gong are the values of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. Unfortunately, the practice is banned in China, where the artist resides. Thousands have been killed for their faith. Golden energy blooms into the room as a result of their steadfast faith. The painting on the back wall reminds us of this work's title, Plum Blossoms in a Muddy World.
It's also a metaphor for the practitioners that are sitting in the room as plum blossoms.
They signify perseverance and hope that all brutal winters end and life is renewed once again.
The magical bit.